أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما اللهم إني أعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع ومن قلب لا يخشى ومن نفس لا تشبع ومن دعاء لا يسمع رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We would like to take the opportunity to thank you for joining the very important session, the importance of writing the will, organized by NANMMA Faith and Family. Myself, Muhammad Kamal from Dallas, Texas. With me here, Brother Shibli from Kansas. Today, inshallah, we'll be talking about the importance of writing the will in every aspects. We are here not to give you any kind of financial information, any legal advice. Whatever we discuss here, completely for information purpose only. To empower you, to inspire you, and make you to take an important decision in your life. Not many people take it seriously. Brothers and sisters, we are for sure about the death. But we are not certain about when. Allah reminds us throughout the Quran, many times, many ayahs, كل نفس ذائقة الموت. Every soul will taste death. No flu needed, no virus, no heart attack or stroke or accidents or any type of sickness needed to cause death. When the time is up, there is no delay. Allah says that وَلَنْ يُؤَخِّرَ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِذَا جَاءَ أَجَلُهَا. But never will Allah delay a soul when the time has come. We cannot hide or escape from it. No matter what we do, where we are, death will overtake. Allah says that أَيْنَمَا تَكُونُوا يُدْرِكُمُ الْمَوْتُ وَلَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُرُوجٍ مُشَيَّدَةٍ. Wherever you may be, the death will overtake you, even if you should be within the towers of lofty construction. So we cannot escape from the death. As Muslims, we are required to bear the anguish of losing a loved one with patience, to beseech our Creator to be merciful to the soul of the deceased, and most importantly, to remind ourselves of the temporary nature of this life, so that we may better prepare ourselves for the next life. While many Muslims ensure the funeral rites are properly observed whenever there is a death, whenever we get a chance to witness a funeral, but there is much less emphasis given to ensuring the loved ones we leave behind have taken care. We are seeing similar aged people around us dying in a daily basis. They have similar family, children background. They are dealing with the same kind of situation. Still, we don't plan to make things easier for the family, children or friends. Why? We have to think about that, brothers and sisters. Why we are not making any changes, not taking necessary actions? Either we don't know, or we are too lazy, or we think that this is not for me. I'm too busy and I will have another time. This is not my time. We'll do later. Talking about the death or will within the family or children, I know it's not an interesting topic or subject. They will be saying that, can you please stop talking about the death? You always talk about the death. So that's a reality. But unfortunately, we have to do that. We have to educate the family, children, prepare whatever we can to make things easier, their life, even after our departure. Let them concentrate on making dua for us instead of looking for documents and managing the situations. We spend a lot of hours to put together this information. You can pretty much find this information online, but we did that work for you to inspire you, to educate you, to help you, inshallah. Okay, so let's jump into the topic. We have a lot to cover, but inshallah we'll try to cover as much we can. Today's topic will be covering introduction to the will and wasiya, importance from Sharia point, importance from general point, consequences of not having a will, Sharia inheritance rules, simple rules, certain things to know before we write a will, do's and don'ts, trust account, how to create a will, sample, too expensive will is required or not, letter of inclusion, a sample, guardianship of children, an example, how and where to keep the will, awareness to the community, Q&A, and next step as per the NANMMA goals. Inshallah, the will consists of two parts, 1/3 and the 2/3. So the wasiya actually on the 1/3 part, and the mirath, the other 2/3 part. So we'll be discussing both parts in a second. What is importance from the Sharia point? What is the importance? What is a wasiya? Wasiya will is a transaction or a document which comes into operations after the testator's death. Will maybe the most important document that we write for our loved ones, because it allows us to select the person who will receive what we own when we die. If you don't have one in place, we cannot select the recipients of the property or the estate, and the state where we reside will determine the property divide. The will is executed after or the payments of the funeral expenses and any outstanding debts. The one who makes the will, the wasiya, is called as testator, al-musi. The one on whose behalf a will is made is generally referred to as a legatee, as al-musallahu. The technically speaking, the term testatee is perhaps a more accurate translation of the al-musallahu. So just a few terms, and you will learn that before you start writing the will. Why the will is important? So the first part in the Surah Al-Baqarah, it says about the wasiyah. كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتُ إِنْ تَرَكَ خَيْرًا لِلْوَصِيَّةِ لِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ حَقًّا عَلَى الْمُتَّقِينَ. Prescribed for you the death approaches of one of you. If he leaves wealth, he should make a bequest for the parents and the near relatives according to what is acceptable, a duty upon the righteous. According to the hadith narrated Abdullah bin Umar, Prophet ﷺ said, it is not permissible for any Muslim who has something to will to stay for 2 nights without having his last will and a testament written and kept ready with him, as is in Sahih al-Bukhari. So another wonderful hadith, that a man may do good deeds for 70 years, but if he acts unjustly when he leaves his last testament, the wickedness of his deed will be sealed upon him, and he will enter to the hellfire, na'udhu billah, because he did 70 years worship, everything is good, but he did something intentionally on his last testament. So we have to be very careful when we write the testament, the will. We should not be making any intentional harmful acts or anything. That's one of the criteria to invalidate the will. It's a purpose to harm any of the inheritors. And the other part, if a man acts wickedly for 70 years, but it's just in his last will and the testament, the goodness of his deed will be sealed upon him, and he will enter into the garden. So because it doesn't matter whether you live 70 or 80 years, doing all the worship and do something bad at the last moment. So which is Allah consider what you go to Allah with what intention is. Another hadith that narrated Abu Huraira, a man asked the Prophet of Allah, what kind of charity is the best? He sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, to give in charity when you are healthy and greedy, hoping to be wealthy and afraid of becoming poor. Don't delay giving in charity till the time when you are on the deathbed, when you say, give so much to so and so, so much to so and so, and that time the property is not yours, but it is belong to so and so. It is belongs to the inheritors. So when we are healthy and conscious, that's one of the criteria to write the will, that we have to be conscious and writing the either wasiya part or the two-third part, so we have to be like that. Another part of the important hadith that our beloved Prophet ﷺ said, it is better for you to leave your inheritors wealthy than to leave them poor, begging others. And whatever you spend for Allah's sake will be considered as a charitable deed. Even the handful of food you put in your wife's mouth, Allah may lengthen your age so that some people may benefit by you and some others be harmed by you. So let's look at continue looking at the importance of the will. After a person dies, there are three possibilities for the relationship between that person and their wealth. Either the person has full control over the wealth through the will, or has partial control over the wealth through a will, or has absolutely no control over it. So Islam takes the middle approach. He or she still has a control over the 1/3 through the will. That's you should have partial control, because you cannot control the whole thing because you have to inherit that. So holding that wealth is not the right thing. So you'll be taking control only the 1/3 part. Rest 2/3 will be inherited. As far as the 2/3 is concerned, the deceased person loses the right to dispose according to their wish. According to their wish is exercised only through the will. The 1/3 you can give to family members, they are not part of the 2/3, and relatives, they are not part of the 2/3, but to a friend, charitable cause, any organization or anyone, they are not part of the Sharia. Maybe an adopted child or something, you can give the 1/3 part, not the 2/3 part. Now look at the why the will is important in general. If we die without making a will, and we are said to have the died in the state, and our estate will be distributed according to the laws of the intestacy of the country and the state where we live. So that what does that mean? So intestacy laws serve as a kind of safety net, catching all the estates left behind by the deceased. So in the absence of the will, state law directs the distribution of the property through the oversight of the probate court after our death. What's a probate court? So everyone know that probate court is a specialized type of court that deals with the property and debts of a person who has died. The basic role of the probate court judge is to assure that the deceased person's creditors are paid and any remaining assets are distributed to the proper beneficiaries. But that doesn't mean that it will go to according to Sharia. So it's based on their best interest. So different states, they call it the different names: a surrogate court, orphans court, chancery court, or anything. So this part of the probate law is known as the law of intestate succession. The law further breaks down the order in which the grandchildren, siblings, parents, aunts, and uncles inherit. So details may vary from state to state. In a sense, the law of intestate succession can be considered to be a will the state makes for you if you don't make one. But the main thing is that kind of law never gets to the Sharia. So if we don't have a will and the state decide, they go through the probate court. Probate court will go according to just flat division. So in the sense, they treat the biological children or the adopted children the same way. So when they divide it, if you have one child adopted, one child your biological child, they give to the same portion. According to Sharia, that's not the your adopted child has no part in the 2/3, but from the 1/3 can. But the probate court is not gonna do that unless you write in the will. So that's one part we have to be very careful. There is many things, just an example I gave. Okay, let's continue the consequences of not having a will. Not having a will, we have no control what happens to our estates after our death, and no option to choose your choice of executor, no option to choose the guardians for your minor children, no option to express your funeral arrangement wishes, no one third option to bequest for a friend or a relative or charity, may not follow Sharia. There may be tax on inheritance property. Some states has tax on the inheritance property, not in Texas, not in New York, but there is a little bit on New Jersey. Up to say certain limit, there is no tax in other states, but there's some states there is taxes. Heavy charges on the court assigned executor, difficult to administer the estate. Both biological child and adopted child will inherit the same. Moreover, we get a peace of mind if we have a will written. That's very important, brothers and sisters. We need a peace of mind before we leave. We have to make sure everything is taken care. We are written perfectly. We are written that. So that's one of the thing. With with the consequences of not having the will, just continue. Intestacy and the dependents, no will, and both the parents die. So this is a real situation. We witnessed one of the situation here nearby. A mom and dad, they had an accident, they passed away and left a 6-year-old daughter, and they don't have will. So they had a very difficult situation. Their parents are their grandparents are in India, so they had to wait. But in the meantime, the court gave the child to one of their friends. Initially they took to the foster care, then gave to them, and then now they go through the court to figure it out to the grandparents or real grandparents whether they can give to them. So what happens in general to our younger children if we don't have will, no guardians are specified, no instructions on who they want to become the guardians of their children. The children are minor and they're in need of parental care. Probate court must step in and choose a guardian on the children's behalf. Children has no idea, so they choose someone. The court will consider who, if anyone, is able to care for the children, and in doing so considers what is in the best interest of the children. Most situations, the court chooses a willing family member or relative to become guardians and conservators. It's a very important. I just remember that if we are living in a kind of community with all our brothers and sisters nearby, we should make some arrangement between us that if something happened to me, my children will be taken care by you, and if something happened to you, we will take something like so that you don't go to the foster care by default. So we should do something. In most situations, the court chooses a willing family if they have. So the guardians and conservators, the guardians are the one taking care your children for their regular and normal routine things. Conservators are more like a financial taking care. So if there is no capable or willing family member to take on the guardianship responsibility, the court might place the children in the state foster care system. Not talking about how the foster care system works here, but may Allah save every one of our children from that. Or otherwise they determine that they should be cared for as wards of the state. So we have to have a clearly written will to explicitly say that our children will be gone to the guardianship, who is guardian. So that's is actually, and so let's see inheritance in Islam, the importance. Prophet ﷺ said, learn the knowledge of inheritance and teach it to the people, for it is the half of the knowledge and it will eventually be forgotten. It will be the first knowledge to be taken away from my ummah. So it is the most important thing, the inheritance. There is a statement attributed to Prophet ﷺ to the extent that the law of inheritance is said to constitute half of the ilm, the knowledge, because the we live and then we leave, we die and leave from this place. So we have, the rest is the inheritance. So we have to know half. The half is the knowledge about the inheritance. We don't need to be a mufti or a sheikh or to get the entire knowledge, but we have to know at least from understanding. So from the from the minimum needed side, what we needed to learn about that. So let's see. The law of the inheritance, that's the basically teaches everything into how we have to divide those 2/3 of our wealth, how to take the 1/3 and things like that. So it is the most important thing we have to learn, inshallah. Okay, so 4 duties after the death. So basically we are after the Muslim die, when a Muslim die, there are 4 duties which needs to be performed. These are the payment of the funeral, payment of his or her debts, execution of his or will, distribution of the remaining estates among the inheritors according to Sharia. You can see here in the diagram death, burial preparation, settlement of death, wasiyah, and distribution. Brothers and sisters, the payment of the funeral, it's not a small thing. It's a big chunk of money. It goes, the burial preparation, you can see, consists of all expenses: ambulance, funeral home expenses, police escort, ritual bath, dress for the dress for the coffin, and graveyard, preparation of grave, carrying the deceased to the graveyard, and burial. So all this constitute big money. In some places 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, anything it can go to that level. Settlement of the debts to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a hajj, zakah, fidya. So anything we did not pray purposefully, or we couldn't pray because the sickness, we couldn't fast, so we have to pay that debt to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cannot take that from the 2/3. So if we have that, we should allocate that towards the 1/3, and that we have to specify, because that's one of the reason that when we are alive, we have to fulfill the duty towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Unless you specify that, nobody knows, and you cannot take the inheritors' property to pay back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so debt to humans or financial institutions, financial claims and loans, all this should be cleared before we start the division. So execution of wasiyah, after that the wasiyah must be valid, not exceeding 1/3 of the estate. What are the things can invalidation of wasiyah? The testator become a person of unsound mind and dies in the state that he's not healthy enough, he is not keeping anything in memory, he start basically he's about to leave this place, and that point he cannot write a wasiyah. And the other reasons, like the beneficiary predecessors the testator, so he dies before even the other one gets in. So, and the subject matter is destroyed before the testator's death. So whatever you're gonna inherit, that's gone. So then you cannot. Testator revokes the wasiyah. If he revokes at any time, then that is the beneficiary has intentionally caused the death of, so he kills basically the testator. So that invalidates the wasiyah. And so the in the tribal society of pre-Islamic Arabia, the Jahiliyyah time, the system of inheritance was designed to keep the wealth, the property within the individual tribe. so that they can maintain their strength as a fighting force to preserve the relationship between the tribes, to kill the enemy and to be proud of the tribe. Then Islam came. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayah to enforce the inheritance rule. So the after this, the words inheritance were revealed, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the incident happened. The case of Sa'ad al-Rabi, the wife of Sa'ad bin al-Rabi, came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with her two daughters and said, "O Prophet of Allah, these are the daughters of Sa'ad bin al-Rabi. Their father died a martyr's death besides you in a battle. But their uncle has taken Sa'ad's estate and they cannot marry unless they have the property." And after this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayah in Surah Nisa, إن الذين يأكلون أموال اليتامى ظلما إنما يأكلون في بطونهم نارا وسيصلون سعيرا. So indeed, those who devour the property of the orphans unjustly are only consuming into their bellies fire, and they will burn in a blaze. So after this verse of inheritance was revealed, and the Prophet ﷺ told the uncle, "Give the two daughters of Sa'd 2/3 of the estate, give their mother 1/8, and keep the remainder yourself." So reformation by Islamic law of succession, inheritance based on the blood relationship and the marriage. So both men and women can inherit. So the introduction of 2:1 ratio, parents and the children will surely get their portion. So where is the knowledge? So the knowledge is mainly from the Quran, of course. And in Surah Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in ayah number 7 and 10, 11, 12 and 176 in Surah Nisa, it talks about the inheritance and rules of inheritance in the ayah number 11, 12 and 176. Allah explains, Wallahi, it is amazing. Allah put all the inheritance rules in these ayahs. It's thousands of books are written about it. People spend years to study and research. It's long ayahs. I'm not gonna read because of our time. You can see here Allah starts saying, "Yusikumullahu fi awladikum lidhakiri mithlul hadhil unsayain," and so you can read just understand the meaning, so that we will know exactly what Allah is talking about, how we got the rules of the Sharia to divide 1/3 or 2/3, inshallah. Okay, as I said, this is the blood relations: father, mother, brother, sister, son, daughter. It's a direct relationship. I have the key rules. This is a very basic thing. Wife receives of husband's estate 1/8 if they have children, and 1/4 if no children. And the husband receives 1/4 if have children. No children, then it's a half. Mother and father receives 1/6 each if they has children, and no children, then the mother gets 1/3. Sons gets twice what daughters receive, and then after fixed share, inheritors receive their shares. The rules are fixed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fixed that, so we cannot change that. So that's one thing we need to understand. So what we need before writing the will? Okay, so before writing the will, decide what property to include in your will. All assets, all debts. Decide who will inherit your property, all beneficiaries. Choose an executor to handle your estate. Keep 4 executors' name. You can include 4 executors. If first executor not available, then they will contact the second one and third one and fourth one. You can include those. Choose a guardians for your children. Keep 4 guardians' names. So the same thing, they try to contact the first guardian, second guardian, third guardian, like that. So you put more names, so they will be able to track one. Choose someone to manage children's property. Make your will. Sign your will in front of the witness. Some not all the wills required the notary, but some states, but at least you have to self notarize it, and then then do according to what the state law is. Store your will safely. Okay, there is a practical example. Imran made it to Rahana. Imran passes away with his mother, still living, and one child. So they get that 1/6 to that mother, and then to 1/8 to the Rahana, and then the 70-bit. So you see here, this is an example. There is another practical example with the 2 children, a boy and girl. You see this. It's a very simple mathematics. Do's and don'ts. Find for executors for the will, but never try to get the executors outside of the country. What will happen is, when you die, the court will call the executors. So if the executors are not reachable, they cannot come to this country, and then we'll be in problem. So try to find someone within here. That is easier. The guardians, the same way, guardians outside the country, don't put that, because they need to contact them to get the guardianship and give the children. So they will try to contact them, cannot, and then it will be a trouble. So do that. Store your will in a secure place, reachable place, and don't keep in the locker, in the bank or anything. You don't need to keep that. You need that easily reachable. And do write the will, but different versions. Don't keep the different versions. You need one version. You don't need to change the will according to your changes, but you can keep something called the letter of inclusion. I will talk about that in a minute. Update the letter of inclusion. That's what I'm talking about. And modifying the signed will. Don't modify the signed will, but change the letter of inclusion. Do write the will, but don't go with expensive will. Paying too much for the writing the will is not required. There are so many online services. They are charging like $60 per month or $600 yearly, something like that. Don't go for it. You don't need to update it online 24/7. Your will won't change. So just make one copy and then include a letter of inclusion, change that one and sign it and keep it. That will help instead of keep changing, inshallah. Okay, so I copied a portion of the will. It's an Islamic will, and you can see here you can include all this information. Executor here 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can include all this information. See, one thing, you create one will, okay? You create your own version, but make sure that the state recognizes how you do that. You create a will and fill it and go to a lawyer or someone. Ask them to validate this for the state. They're not going to charge more for that, just to validate it. And and based on that, you can make change. So I have few important parts here. The minor children. See, this is the guardianship. You need to put the information here. Minor children, what to be done, who is the guardian, guardian 1, guardian 2, or where you want to do that. And see here, I have some optional. This is an Islamic will. You can find online. You can make change according to your state. And you can have a health care proxy. So what it does is, if you are in a critical illness situation, so something happened, someone has to decide to remove the life support, and if you are writing there, they don't need to ask someone. By default, it's the closest relative, like the spouse or husband, so whoever. So, and then if they are struggling to make a decision, they normally ask if you have a will, and then they go according to the will, and still they check with the spouse on. So that's a good way too. So let's talk about what is letter of inclusions. Before that, I wanna focus one thing, that if a Muslim dies, this is a very important point I want to mention. The body has to be buried as soon as possible. Taking the body overseas or to the country where the person is from, originally from, it's an unsupported act, and there is no value in Islam. So this is against the Islamic ideology. The act has no basis for that. It only adds additional burden to the others. You should clearly specify this in the will. Also inform your decision to your families and others back home, so that there is no conclusion or argument after regarding the burial. Also, having a will make the paperwork easier and to release the body on time from the hospital or from the funeral home. It is not something we like to talk about much, but brothers and sisters, you may not know our funeral parlor, what really goes on there, or what an embalmer actually does. So when someone decides to send the body overseas, they do something called the embalming of the body. This information is on the net. You can read, but just for information purpose. Two types of embalming, doesn't matter. They will suck drain out the blood. The blood is removed from the body via the veins and replaced with an embalming solutions via arteries. The embalming solution is usually a combination of formaldehyde or glutaraldehyde, methanol or ethanol, phenol, and water, and may also contain the dyes in order to simulate a lifelike skin tone. So if it is cavity embalming, and they make a small incision and let the belly button, and a sharp surgical instrument used to drainage. So anyway, that's a very difficult process, even though the person already died, but this is what it is happening. They take out the blood and replace with something. So just to be note that. Okay, let's talk about the letter of inclusion again here. So this is a document. This is not gonna replace the will, but this is a document. It's a supplement. Benefits both you and survivor, providing the specific arrangements settling the affairs according to. It should not, however, replace the will. Okay, this is a supplement document. Well, it looks like this, but you can create your own version. There is no standard format, but there are much information. You can go here, letter of instructions. So what it can serve. You can instructions to your spouse related to burial, instructions to your spouse on the other things, instructions to your children, important warranty information, car, all vehicles, utilities, phone, gas, water, investments, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, store credit cards, bank cards, debts on, loan outstanding, volunteering activity, information on the funeral, information to the community leader, information to the imam. This is a sample letter. I actually wrote it the same way. Letter of instruction to be attached to my last will. I, so and so, currently residing at the address, city, state, hereby adding the following lines. So you can have as many sections. Section 1, current assets. Section 2, current debts. Section 3, my current accounts. Section 4, current employer. Section 5, about my burial process. Section 6, not to my wife. Section 7, notes to my elder son, to other children, and instruction to the guardians of other children. So you can include any information in here. You cannot do this in the will. So, but you can include this in the letter of instruction and date and sign, and then you have to mention in the will that you have a letter of instruction to add as part of the will. So the court will take both into consideration. And then how to arrange the document. This is a kind of folders I created. Just want to remind you something. When we die, our spouse, they don't remember anything immediately after. Okay, so suppose I die and one of friends are contacted. They will be coming to take the body to the funeral. They will be asking all the information, date of birth, employer name, social security. and if you contact my wife and ask him, she may forget everything, because that's the moment. So if we keep something like this and all the information in this folder format, it's easy for them. They just need to hand over this to you and you look in all the information. That's very helpful. So I put some information here in the will folder. You can put the original and copy of the will signed, last version, and the letter of inclusion. Anything else you can add in here. This is just a sample, okay? In the accounts folder, you can put all the bank accounts, types of accounts, online logins, stocks, all the information in here. And the employer, you can put the details of all employers, including the address, details of managers and colleagues. You may be working multiple jobs, and you can include that. All previous employment information. Person like me, I worked many different employers, and sometimes they needed, or children need for the college or something, that all the previous employees' addresses. So you can put all this. They're not gonna remember anything like we remember. The same way for the home address. If you have stayed last 10 years different homes, you can put all the addresses in here. This also needed for them later on at any stage. The health insurance details, dental, vision, copy of the insurance policy paper, short-term, long-term details of any additional coverage like life insurance, critical illness coverage, and cancer, any additional. So believe me, when I said in the beginning that, even we think that I don't have anything to will, and so we don't need to will. But see, there are some assets which we may not even remember. Say when we join the health insurance, there may be option to add additional coverage. That's when you die, your spouse gets that kind of money. So take a printout of the copy of your insurance coverage papers and details and put it in here, so someone can validate and get whatever is needed. Any travel related documents, anything you can put in here. Any passport, traveling, any document you can include, all the travel related documents. Any information you can put that which passport expired in which date, your visa to India or other country expires, and OCI, all the information, so that they don't need to run around to look for the information. And where to store the will, do not put in the bank locker. Make 3-4 copies to give to the executors, at least the first 2 executors give the copy, and give to your children and tell them that there is a will I have given to such and such, so they will know exactly who has what. Okay, so that's, and I wanna, a couple of other points I wanna remind, that this writing will, it's not hard thing. Okay, and most of us is working as an employee in the company or W2. One of the benefit is you get a free lawyer from the company to write a will, or any family issues or anything, you get the lawyer. So you can contact them and ask them to write a will. So it's just no money, expenses. The only thing is lazy, right? So you can write that will, and or if you already have one, you go and talk to them. It's a free service. You should do that. And or you create your own and make it this is valid. And that's another thing. And also, you don't need to go for a too expensive will. That's I already told you. And you don't need to notarize everything. So it's based on the state. At least what you can do, say you don't have time to, you just start documenting all your assets and things like that. Make it as a document, and by that time you will learn that, okay, let me go. There are so many online free downloadable version of will that will help, but you have to search for your state, and then you get it, you enter it. It's no charge. Maybe there are like $10 to get an attestation copy, good copy. That also it's worth, and later on you can make it more meaningful. I pray Allah that Allah give us the tawfiq to understand His deen and Sharia in a proper way and to implement. May Allah help all of us to live as a Muslim die as a Muslim, and to help the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah save everyone from all type of calamities and sickness and virus and anything. May Allah take away the virus is spreading nowadays, that completely remove from the earth and save every single innocent life. May Allah save us from all the fitna, all the test. We accept that we have done mistakes. May Allah forgive every single one of us, our mistakes. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا دين إلا قضيته ولا مريضا إلا شفيته ولا ميتا إلا رحمته ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا والآخرة إلا قضيتها يا أرحم الراحمين. جزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.